Hey everyone, it's Nancy, and today I have my July 2017 wrap up. I didn't read as many books as I wanted to this month, but it's okay. I do work 40 hours a week, so I don't have that much free time to read. So I'm also going to be mentioning what I read during the Booktubeathon in this video. So if you wanted to know what I read on my first readathon, I'll be including that, and I will also be including my small August TBR. So the order I'm going to talk about the books are in the order that I finished them in the month, because it's just kind of a little bit more organized for me. So I'm going to start off with the book that I started late June and finished in July, and I read most of it in July. So that book was Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. Now this book was a little disappointing. Not that it wasn't good, but because I had really high hopes for it. A lot of my favorite booktubers really love this book. It's one of their favorite books, or it's their favorite sci-fi book, and I just thought I was gonna really love it, and that was not the case. I did not love it. I enjoyed it, but it was not one of my favorites. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, so I did enjoy it, but not as much as I wanted to or I thought I was going to. One of the main reasons I didn't love it was because there was a lot of unnecessary 80s references. So this book has a lot of 80s references that does go with the plot, but a lot of the time the author would explain something that was relevant to the story by explaining an 80s reference, but then he would keep going on and on and on about it, and it got to the point where it wasn't relevant to the story. This book is great if you love the 80s and you want to feel nostalgic and everything. This will be perfect, but I wasn't looking for that. I'm glad that I read it at least, and that I finally got it off my TBR, because I have been wanting to read it for a really long time, and I finally did. And I saw the trailer for the movie, and I'm pretty excited for it because the storyline of this book is really interesting. I'm really excited to see how it translates into a movie. And then the next book that I read was Paper Towns by John Green. I was in the mood to read a John Green book, and I decided to pick the one that I thought I was gonna like the least. My reasoning, yep, that's my logic. So I went with Paper Towns because I've heard of the premise of this book, and I thought that I was not gonna like the main character, or one of the main characters, Margot, and it surprised me actually. I didn't really like it. The book was still a 2 out of 5 stars for me, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. I didn't hate the character, I didn't love her, but I didn't mind her. When I finished this book, I was kind of like, what was the point of this book? But I did enjoy the light message about how you perceive people and how they actually are. And, if you read this book, you know what I'm talking about. So I enjoyed that, but it was an okay read. Hopefully I like John Green's other books if I decide to pick them up, but for the first one it was okay. And then I read The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, and this has been on my TBR for a while, but the reason I decided to pick it up this month was because one of my favorite booktubers, Emily from Possibly Literate, mentioned how much she loved it and how much she loved the show, so she kind of just made me want to read it a little sooner. And then I also really wanted to watch the show, so of course I had to read the book before, and I really did enjoy it. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. What was that? I don't know what that was. I think the author does a really great job on building the atmosphere. The book felt really gloomy and hopeless in a way that just made you feel for the characters. And I started watching the show too, and it's really great so far. I haven't finished it, but I really enjoyed it. I want to pick up more of Margaret Atwood's work, but I saw her list of books and it's pretty long, so I don't know where to go from here. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. I really enjoyed it. It's a little scary, and the show is a little scary too, but I really enjoyed it. So I'm glad that I finally read it. And now moving on to what I read during the Booktubeathon. So what I read during Booktubeathon was one complete book, a short story, and I started a few books. So the book that I finished was If I Was Your Girl by Meredith Russo, and this is about a transgender girl. I actually bought this book just for the Booktubeathon because it covered 2 challenges and I really wanted to read it. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It was a pretty quick read. I read it in 4 days. I feel like I could have read it in 1, but since I was reading a little bit a day, it took me 4. One thing about this book that I did feel while I was reading it was that the character it was really simplified. Her problems were a little simplified. I felt like she wasn't going through as much as real transgender women go through, but then I got to the end and I read the author's note and she actually mentioned it, so I really appreciated that she mentioned that. She said for the sake of the story, she simplified things, she made things go in her favor just for the sake of the story, just to tell this one specific story. So I definitely want to read more books about transgender girls that are a little bit more complex. I think it's very important, and yeah, but overall I really liked the book. And then the short story that I read was a reread, and it was my favorite Spanish literature short story, which is San Manuel Bueno Martir by Miguel de Unamuno. And I actually read the English version. I own the Spanish version, but I read the English one on my phone. If you Google it, you'll find it for free. I definitely recommend reading it if you want something quick and really good. It's only like 20 pages. I just really loved it. This short story is about a girl named Angelina. She's kind of looking back when she was younger. She lived in a religious town that had a really well-known priest who was practically a saint, or declared a saint, I think, actually. It just talks about her relationship with him and her brother's relationship with him. Overall, the story is just really great. It has a really great message about faith and religion, but it's not one of those books that is trying like to convert you or anything. It's just one that kind of analyzes faith and how people are religious and everything. And I really enjoyed it. It made me cry. It's a really good, really good short story. I really recommend it. Now on to the books that I started but did not finish. So first I have The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman, and I'm like 2/3 of the way done. I started reading this book towards the end of Booktubeathon thinking that I was going to be able to finish it, but I couldn't. I was a little busy, but I did get through a lot of it and I am really enjoying it so far. It is a magical realism book, so if you're not into that, I wouldn't recommend it because you probably won't like it. It's about a man who goes back to his hometown for a funeral and he visits his childhood home, and he kind of just starts remembering these things that he forgot. Can't wait to finish it. And then I started reading Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. I am enjoying this book. It's not my favorite book, it's not the best book, but I'm enjoying it. Whatever it takes to get to Lord of Shadows. So there's only one book on my TBR besides the books that I have not finished. I want to finish those, but my main book that I want to finish this month, it's by Stephen King. August is the last chance that I have to read this before the movie comes out because I really want to watch it. I don't want to postpone watching it just because I haven't read it. So I really want to finish this in August, and I'm currently in page 150, so this is going to be definitely the priority of August. And then also, if I need a little break from that big book, or if I just, want to read something else, I'm planning to read the March graphic novels. I have the first one and the second one, and one of the reasons is because I took them out from the library, so I do have to return them at the end of the month, so I definitely need to get to them. And I've been wanting to read these for a while, and I couldn't believe that my library had them, and I just grabbed them and I could not let go. So I'm so excited to read these. So that has been my July wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe and all those booktube things, and I'll see you guys in my next video.